Hello devs, welcome back to the advanced React course or advanced web development course. And in this tutorial you'll be learning we are going to be learning what GSX is, functional component, how to apply CSS to our React app, click events, use state, list, keys, props, and prop drilling. So when we talk about GSX, as you can see here, we have an app.jsx. The extension of this file is JSX. But the thing is, even a JS and a JSX extension will actually do the same thing. Like you can write code in both a JS extension file and a JSX file. But the only reason why I actually use a JSX is when I'm actually creating components that actually render to the screen, I like to use a JSX. And when I'm creating things like a React hooks or something, you actually learn more about all those data, a custom React hook, also functions that would not really render to the screen. I like to use a JS file just to like distinguish them. So basically, what JSX is what you are seeing right here. You might probably think, wow, this is actually HTML. Well, JSX looks very much like HTML, and all like all HTML are actually valid there with just little changes. For example, if you want to like use a class, you can't use a class because class is like a reserved word in React, so you need to use class name instead for that, and some other stuff that you'll be seeing along the line. So when we talk about components, components is just like splitting your app into like different pieces. So when you actually make you can actually like make a component for a navbar if you have like multiple pages and just apply that same component to like multiple pages. So when you actually make the change once in that one component, it will actually apply to like all the other pages. And I'll just like to like show an example of what the component is and how to like create a component in React. So I could just go into my source file and I'll create a new component and call it counter.jsx because it will be rendering to um VBOM. So if you want to like create a functional component in React, we can just use an arrow function and an ESS arrow function. I can just create a counter. You can use any form of writing function. I think they are basically just to use the normal way of writing a function like this, or you can just use an arrow function. Either ways, it will work. And in React, you need to return, and what you'll be returning is your JSX. And also, what you can do is return a fragment, a React fragment, and this fragment is useful when you don't want to like wrap your um wrap your content inside a div. If you don't want to wrap it inside a div or inside an HTML element, and when you actually use a fragment, when you check when you inspect in the browser, when you inspect your code in the browser, it will actually remove the fragment, and you will not really see a fragment there. It will just be like empty space. So, and this is because you need to like render only just one element in React. When you're using GSS, you need to render only one element. If you see, if you try to like render a div here to it will definitely give me an error because a component expects um only one element. So yeah, you can just test out elements by writing hello world 2, and we need to do an export default counter. So now we can come back to our app and we can import that and actually use the component. So we can import counter from count. Yeah, we need to do dot slash then the counter. This is how you actually apply a component. So we actually check here. Okay, I think we have not started the app. My bad. So npm run dev just to start the app. And since we're actually using Vite, it is very fast as you can see. And we have our hello world and hello world 2. So what I would like to do now is just to like create a little what I like to do is create a little counter. So now we would actually so now I'll just create count is 0. Oops, let me bring this back. So count is 0, and if I actually just check on browser, oh, sorry about that, as you see count is 0. So let me just add a little style and I'll use that to explain how to actually apply styles to your component. So I could just add a new file here, name it styles.css. And this is like the basic standard way of just doing it. I could just import styles, okay, dot slash styles.css. And just to test, we can add a body, then add a background of tomato. And as you can see, we have our tomato background. So I could just align text. Now align text. Why align text? Sorry, text align to the center. So I'll text align to the center. Justify no. Let me just give it a margin, no, a padding of 40 view height, and I think this has been enough. So yeah, we have it centered here. Let me increase the font size to larger so we can actually see better, and then the font weight of 600. And yeah, I think this is better to some extent. Or I could just increase this and just start like 30 px, just do a custom one myself. Yeah, this is better. So we have count is 0, and this is just one way of adding styles. If I want to just add like custom style to these components, what I could equally do is style, then JSX. I'll create a style element, and I can write whatever style I want to write it. So I could just do a style. I could name it dot btn, a class, because I'll be creating a button later. So I could do a class of dot btn, and I could just do padding just to make the button a bit bigger, 5 pixel. So I could just break my line here, even though this is not a styles tutorial. I just like to make my app a little bit nice. So I could have button increment. I could name this increment button. Yeah, we have our increment button. So I could just add a class name. Like I said, we can actually use class here. So btn, as you can see, it has increased the button size. So I could just style this if I want. Border of 0. So I don't have a border anymore. Let me try and increase the padding to like 20 pixel. I have a really big button. I think I like it. So I should just have another button, I guess, and then decrement. Well, space. This is not the best way to add space, but yeah, it works. So I'll just do an mbsp. So what I want is, so this is just like I've shown you two ways of adding styles, and another way you could also use is you can do an inline style. There are multiple ways, but I'll just like to talk about these three ways, which is adding a style tag in your React app using the styles file, an external style sheet, or you can just use an inline style. So when you're using an inline style, you need to use the double curly braces. So I could just do the background, and I could do blue, and the color I could do white. As you can see, I have a separate button for increment. I would prefer green, because it is actually good when you increase. Sometimes it's good when you decrease, but nah, not most times. So that's that about applying styles to your React app. So let's talk a little bit about state. So what I want to do here is just like create a variable where I'm going to store the count instead of using like this 0 count. So but if I actually do a count equals to 0, I can use the count here like this count, and if I should check, it is still 0. But this is not the reactive way of doing things, because I can't really change this count now unless I use a let, and I could just maybe change it whenever I could just add one to it whenever I click this button. But that is not the reactive way of doing things. So the best way to actually do this is to use a state, and a state will actually help you to like store a variable. It will give you like if you destructure a state, it will give you two values. You can like one to get the state, one that will contain the value of the state, and one that you can actually use to like set the state. So when you're using these convention is that you actually use whatever name you use here, you just add sets to it, and you use the camel case, meaning it starts with a capital letter. So you just have to like now I'm using count, you need to use like set count here. It's convention, nothing. So use state, and I can give it an initial value of 0 here. So you can add basically anything here. You can even use an object, but whenever you're using an object here, make sure you are maybe looping, maybe you are mapping it or something, because you can't really render an object here. So I could just put like 0. I could get rid of my previous count, and so if I actually run this code, I still have 0. And before we actually miss this, as you can see, it automatically imported this for me. Use state is actually comes with React, and as you can see in our package, the JSON, we have React here and we have the React DOM, which we might actually use later. So from React actually comes with a lot of things, and hooks is an example of those things, and use is an example of an hook. And we'll actually talk more about this when we reach the part where we'll actually talk about React hooks. So now when I actually have this, you see it will be very easy to actually increment this. So here now I can add an event, an unclick event to this. So whenever I click this button, I want to run a function to increment increment count, and I want to like do the same thing for decrement. So what I want to do is decrement a. So I need to like create my functions. So const increment count is a function, and whenever you click on something, or whenever you do an event, you must definitely get an event parameter from it. Whenever you like trigger an event, you equally get an event parameter for it. So then I will have my const decrement count, which is another function, and you get your event. I mean, this is like basic JavaScript if you know this already. I don't need to talk much about event and event handlers. So when I get the here, I want to do um e dot the dot prevent. I want to prevent default so that the browser doesn't really reload whenever I click on the button. So I'm preventing the default, which is to reload. So whenever I click on the E button, what I want to do is I want to set the count to a new value that will actually to a new value. And there are actually different ways of doing this, but there is a very easy way. You will not really see this often. You will not see people doing this often, but yeah, you get to see me do it. What I just want to do here is just to increment whatever the previous value is. So whatever the previous value is, I would just like to add one to it. So plus 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 plus, and that's it. So I could just copy this because we'll be doing basically the same thing for the decrement, and I would just like to minus minus. So let us cross our finger and hope this works, and hope it actually works. So previous present. So as you can see, when we actually click on increment, it actually works. And for some reason, plus plus doesn't work. I mean, I've not really tried it out, so I don't really know that would not work. So I guess we have to like specify the amount at which we want to actually increment and decrement. So we click on decrement 2, as you can see, we get to -1 and we get to increment, and this is like a counter. Let us see if we can actually get a, as you can see, we even get negative numbers. So as you can see, increment, decrement, and that's like a basic counter. So if you've actually followed me up to this point, you should know that, well, you just created your first React app, which is the content and which is a counter, and you can actually place this on your GitHub. You can share me the link, and that should basically just be like maybe your assignment for the next for this part. I think that will be your assignment for this part. And so subsequently, I would like to like end this episode now, and in the next video we shall continue with list. keys, props, and prop drilling using in React. Um, so basically, that's that about that. Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, do well to actually ask in the group, or you can leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you. I am Amigo.